everyone, my name is Merritt Murphy and this is my chapter 6 recap. And this chapter is all about leadership and influence. So they begin the chapter by stating that exercising influence is the essence of leadership, which I 100% agree with. And then they go on to discuss how leaders must shape the attitudes and behaviors of others to help groups reach their goals. That's the definition of leadership. So then they go on to say that there are 4 sets of influence tools significant to leaders that you can use to achieve this. So the first one is credibility building behaviors. The second one is compliance gaining strategies. The third one is argumentation competencies. And the fourth is negotiation tactics. So going into the first one, the credibility. So they state that that is the foundation for successful influence. I, again, 100% agree with this statement wholeheartedly. So going forward, they state they did a global survey, I believe, of over 10,000 managers. And when managers were asked what characteristics they admired most in their leaders, the answers were forward-looking, honest, inspirational, and competent. So taken together, these elements compromise what researchers would just label as believability or credibility. So highly credible public speakers are more likely to convince audiences to accept their arguments. And again, I 100% agree with this. If somebody has like no credibility and they're already making an argument that doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, it makes them a lot harder to believe, I would 100% say. So I would definitely take that into consideration, of course, like their credibility and their background. So again, I 100% agree. So going forward, the compliance-based strategies, those are verbal tactics leaders and others use to get their way in face-to-face encounters. So these are based off types of powers that they discussed in the previous chapter. That was chapter 5. And common managerial influence tactics might include just a few would be rational persuasion, personal appeals, consultation, just etc. Those types of strategies that were sort of heavily discussed in the last chapter, those can be used and kind of double as those compliance gaining strategies. So again, going forward in our third strategy that is significant, that one would be developing argumentation competence. And this consists of how people build their case when they are defending like a stance in an argument. So the book gives an example, I believe, about like immigration, and when you build a strong case successfully and also successfully refuting the claims of your opponent, opposing argumenter, almost this would be when like argument competency. So that's going to explain that. And then the introduction of controversy and dialogue sets the argumentation apart from compliance gaining strategies. So again, there might be some things that might overlap between the two, but what really sets it apart is kind of the controversy. Again, like with the given example of like when you're talking about like something very controversial like immigration or politics, again, that would be what they're mostly discussing with this one. And then finally, we're going into the negotiation. So the goal of negotiation is to reach a conclusion that is satisfying to just not one side, but both sides, of course. So again, the sole difference between this one is in argumentation they establish superiority over one position. That was like a really big goal of that one. And this one, they're just trying to kind of, again, negotiate and try to come together. And all leaders, of course, engage in negotiation. Leaders in politics, leaders in business, and medical practice, they all negotiate. So again, that's something really important to keep in mind, that pretty much everybody does this in everyday life. Now, compliance, gaining, and argumentation, those heavily emphasize activities of persuader. Outcomes and negotiation, those outcomes depend on joint efforts of both parties involved. So I really like that they pointed this out. So this was my chapter 6 summary. Thank you so much for watching.